Hello, dear listeners. Today I have a powerful message for each and every one of you who dreams of mastering English. Believe in yourself, because you are capable of extraordinary things. Learning a new language is an incredible adventure, and English is your key to a world of endless possibilities. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step. Embrace the joy of learning as you take those first steps towards English fluency. Each word you learn, each sentence you speak, brings you closer to your goals. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. They are an integral part of the learning process. Surround yourself with positivity and immerse yourself in English. Watch movies, listen to music, and read books in English. If you want, you can also follow me on this channel. Engage with fellow learners and create a supportive community. Together, we will conquer any challenges that come our way. Consistency is the secret ingredient to success. Set aside a few minutes each day to practice English. It's not about the amount of time you dedicate. It's about the quality of your practice. Slowly but surely, you'll see your skills blossom and your confidence soar. Celebrate every milestone, no matter how small. Each new word mastered, each conversation held, is an achievement to be proud of. Believe in your progress and never lose sight of your dreams. Remember, you have the power within you to make them a reality. As we conclude this episode, remember that learning English is not just about acquiring a new language. It's about discovering your true potential and expanding your horizons. English will open doors to new friendships, amazing opportunities, and a world of knowledge. So, my fellow language enthusiasts, let's embark on this exhilarating journey together. Believe in yourself, embrace the joy of learning, and unlock your true potential through English mastery. The future is waiting, and it's yours for the taking. Remember to follow me on this TikTok channel for more inspirational episodes.
Welcome to the Listening Time Podcast. If this is your first time listening, I'm glad you found this podcast because it's designed to help you practice your listening skills with me. So in each episode, I talk about a different topic or a couple different topics, and I speak about these topics naturally. I talk with normal words and phrases and expressions, but I speak a little bit more slowly and a little bit more clearly than the average native speaker speaks. So I don't read a script or anything like that. I'm not reading anything. I'm just speaking as the words come to my mind, but I'm speaking in a way that's a little bit easier for you to understand. So this should help you reach the level where you can eventually understand well and understand real native speech when speakers speak fast. So I'm sure this will be a helpful resource for you. Also, remember that the transcript is available for every episode. You can find the transcript for this episode in the details part of the episode. So if you want to listen to this episode multiple times and use the transcript to help you understand the words that you didn't understand the first time you listened, that's a great resource for you as well. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about pets. This is a popular topic. I think a lot of you probably have pets and like to talk about your pets. So this should be good. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. Okay, so today we're going to talk about pets. Pets are animals that you keep with you at your house. So they're not wild animals, they're domesticated. We use the word domesticated to talk about animals that have been trained to live with humans, right? They're not going to attack you or eat you. They're friendly around humans. So let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits, the advantages of having pets, and some of the disadvantages of having pets. First of all, I think the main benefit that people enjoy when they have a pet is the company of having this animal. So this is more valid with animals like dogs and cats. It might not be the same if you have a bird or an iguana or something like that. But for dogs and cats, they offer you companionship. Companionship just means the act of being with someone else, right? They're with you. They live alongside you. Usually they're friendly with you. They're your companion. So that's one of the main benefits of having pets, especially dogs, I think. And another big benefit is that they force you to exercise. Again, this is talking primarily about dogs, but I think dogs are the most popular pet, so I'll use them as an example. So when you have a dog, usually you have to take the dog out and walk the dog. We use the verb walk to talk about putting your dog on the leash, that thing that you put around its neck and hold, and you take him outside. You walk the dog, okay? So when you walk the dog, you get exercise. It forces you to be on your feet, walk, maybe even run, but it forces you to be active. And so that's another benefit of having a dog in particular. And one other benefit that having a pet gives is that it teaches children responsibility. So in the U.S., for example, parents often buy their children some kind of pet to teach their children how to be responsible, right? They have to take care of this other living creature. They have to feed it and clean its environment and maybe play with it and give it water and all these different things. So parents often use this to help children learn that they need to be responsible for other things and take care of other things and responsibilities. So that's another advantage of pets. So there are also disadvantages of having pets. One of those disadvantages is that it takes time out of your day. This could be a good thing. For example, if you really like walking your dog or, feeding your pet or cleaning their cage. If you really like these activities, then this isn't a big problem. But for many of us, this might be a disadvantage because we have to take extra time out of our day to dedicate to this animal. So that's one disadvantage. Another disadvantage could be the space that the animal needs. For example, if you're a dog owner, you know that dogs often need space, especially if you have a big dog. If they don't have space to run around, then they can get very anxious or frustrated. So this can limit you. For example, if you want to buy an apartment or rent an apartment, but you have a dog and that apartment doesn't have a lot of space, then you probably can't choose that option. You have to choose a more expensive option with more space or with a backyard or an outdoor area. So that could be a disadvantage as well. And then one other disadvantage, one other con, as we say it. A con is the opposite of a pro. A pro is an advantage and a con is a disadvantage. So we say pros and cons. One other con of having pets is that they can oftentimes disrupt your life. The verb disrupt means to interfere or make changes to something in a way that wasn't planned. So we call these interferences disruptions. So for example, maybe I'm working, I'm talking to a student, and then the dog starts barking and disrupts my class. In this case, this is a disruption. It's some kind of interference that I didn't plan, and I have to do something about it. So this is an example of a disruption. They can also disrupt your plans for like travel or things like that. If you have many pets, it's hard to travel because you need to take care of these pets. And so you might need to pay money or hire someone to watch your pets for you while you're gone. And there's a lot that you need to think about, I think. So let's talk about dogs in particular, and then we'll talk about cats, the amount that we eat. For me, the easiest way to cut down on sugar, when I say cut down on, I mean reduce the amount. So the easiest way to cut down on sugar for me is to make sure I'm not drinking sugary drinks. For me, it's kind of hard to cut down on sugary foods, but drinks are okay for me. I can just drink water. I can just drink other healthier drinks and not drink soda or juice or things like that. So that's one tip I would give you. If you want to cut down on your sugar, start with the drinks. It's usually easier to cut down on those things. And of course, junk food in general, right? Junk food in English refers to food that is not really food, right? It's processed snack food like chips and things like that. So these junk food products have a lot of things in them that we probably don't want to put in our bodies in large amounts. So it's good to eat these things in moderation, right? Just from time to time, but not all the time, every day, right? So that's something that you can do to help improve your nutrition, cut down on sugar and junk foods. And of course, that means that you can increase the amount of healthy food that you eat. If you're hungry, instead of eating junk food, you should eat some kind of healthy food, right? So cutting down on sugar and junk food doesn't mean that you're restricting your calories a ton, right? You can just replace your junk food with some kind of healthy food. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about exercise. This is another element that's very important when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle. So, of course, there are many benefits to exercising. For example, if you're overweight, obviously exercise can help you lose weight and reach a healthier weight. And losing fat in general, right? It's not good to have a lot of fat accumulated in our bodies. This is not healthy. It can cause all kinds of issues. So exercising, working out, this will help you reduce the amount of body fat that you have. The word workout in English can be a verb. So we usually use it just as a verb, like I like to work out, or I work out 3 times a week. But it can also be a noun if we combine the phrase into one word. So my workout, for example, that can be just one word. And in that case, it's a noun, right? That workout was very hard. So you can say exercise or workout. They're both the same thing. So another benefit of working out is that you increase your strength. You get stronger, right? So if you don't do any type of exercise, then your muscles are probably not very strong. You probably can't lift heavy things, or you probably can't do a lot of cardio work for a long time because you'll get too tired, right? Cardio just refers to some type of activity or exercise that uses your heart, right? Where you have to keep in motion, stay in motion for a long time. That is called cardio in English. So you can say, I did cardio at the gym today. So yeah, one benefit is that your muscles are stronger, your heart is stronger if you exercise. And then one other benefit is that if you exercise, it helps your mind, right? It helps you relieve stress. It helps you just feel better. It helps your mood in general. Usually when I do some type of exercise, it puts me in a better mood. In English, when we say the word mood, or I'm in a good mood or bad mood, we mean that you feel good or bad emotionally and mentally, right? If you're in a good mood, this means that you're happy. If you're in a bad mood, this means that you're mad or sad or upset or something like that. So exercising can help mad or upset or something like that. So exercising can help your mood. It can help put you in a good mood. So what are some types of exercise that we can do? Well, we have running. This is an exercise that I do sometimes. I like to run at the park. I definitely do not like running on treadmills. The word treadmill refers to the machine that you run on indoors. I hate running on treadmills, but I like running in nature, at parks or on trails in nature. For me, this is fun. It puts me in a good mood, but I'm not very good at running. I definitely can't run long distances, so I just run a little bit just to keep my mind and my body healthy. And I only do it a couple times or a few times a week, so I'm not a real runner. And another type of exercise is weightlifting. So if you want to get stronger and you want your muscles to be bigger, you can go to the gym and lift weights, right? This means that you use your force to move objects, heavy objects, right? So lifting weights is a great way to get stronger because you train your muscles to lift more and more and more weight, and your muscles grow and gain more strength. So there are also types of exercise like CrossFit, which are very dynamic exercises, right? There's whole routine and many different movements and many different body parts are involved. And many people really like this type of exercise because it's a full body exercise, right? You exercise many different muscles in your body. And one other exercise that's really good, and this is my favorite one, is walking. So I love walking. I do it almost every day. And I don't walk really long distances, but I walk a little bit each day, or at least I try to. And this exercise is good because it's easy to do, right? It doesn't cause injury, usually. Injury means some kind of problem with your body. If you get injured, that means that you are hurt, right? You can injure your arm, you can injure your knees, for example. So when you walk, it usually doesn't cause injury, and it's easy to do. You don't need to buy any equipment or a gym membership or anything like that. You can just go outside and start walking. So I really like that aspect of it. And my favorite thing about walking is the fact that you can enjoy the outdoors. You can just look around you and notice the things that are around you, the nature, the stores, the people, wherever you're walking. You can enjoy the scenery, and it's kind of fun, right? It's not just exercise. You can look around you, enjoy where you're at, and you can walk with other people and talk with them at the same time because you're not too tired to talk, because walking doesn't take too much strength or energy. So that's my favorite exercise. I love walking. Okay, lastly, let's talk about mental health. So usually when people think of healthy lifestyles, they think of the food that you eat, they think of the exercise that you do. But one thing that people often overlook is mental health. So the word overlook refers to the action of not considering something, right? You don't really think of something. You forget about it. You overlook it. So people often overlook the area of mental health when they think about living a healthy lifestyle. So what are some of the things that you should do to stay healthy mentally? Well, one thing is to reduce your stress level. Obviously, it's impossible to completely eliminate stress from our lives, right? We have stressful lives as adults. We have stressful jobs. We have stress in our family life. We have stress in many areas of life. So we can't avoid stress completely, but we can help relieve stress. So you let the stress go, right? You don't allow it to stay with you. So if you can relieve stress during the day, this will help your mind to be healthier. It will help you to be in a better mood, and it will help your overall health. So one way that you can relieve stress is to exercise. When you work out, when you run, when you walk, it helps lower your stress level. Another way that some people lower their stress level is to read. Maybe reading books helps you forget about all the stressful things in your life. That's another way of reducing your stress. Also, interacting with the people that you love. That's a great way to relieve stress, right? Talking to your family, your friends, hanging out with them, doing activities with them. This is a great way to relieve stress. So another thing that we can do to make sure we are healthy mentally is to do mental exercises. For example, language learning is maybe the best one. So if you're listening to this podcast, I assume you're a language learner. So you're already doing a good job to help your brain stay healthy. Because when you learn a language, you exercise your mind, right? This is really good for your brain. So it's something that I think everyone should try. Even if you're not a huge fan of foreign languages, learning one foreign language in your life can help your brain stay healthier and more active when you get older. So another thing you can do is learn a musical instrument. This is another exercise for your brain. It's something that can help train your mind. And then just doing puzzles in general, right? A puzzle is some type of activity where you have to put pieces together to create the whole product, to solve the puzzle, right? So we call these things puzzles. And one other thing you can do for your mental health is to get good sleep, right? If you don't sleep well at night, if you sleep just a few hours each night, or you have a very irregular sleep pattern, this can also cause you to be more stressed and less focused and can cause other health problems. So maintaining a good sleep schedule and trying to get to bed earlier, this can help your overall health and help you live a healthier lifestyle. So we'll stop there for today. I hope this topic was interesting for you, and hopefully all of you are staying healthy. I'm glad you found this podcast. This is designed for English learners who are trying to improve their listening skills. So the way that the podcast works is that I choose 1 or 2 different topics each episode, and I talk about these topics in a natural way using natural words and expressions, and I don't read any script. I just speak as the words come to my mind. So I speak very naturally, but I speak a little bit more slowly and a little bit more clearly than the average native speaker speaks. So today I'm going to talk about personality. This should be an interesting topic. I hope you like it. All right, let's get started. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. Okay, so first of all, let's define personality. What is personality? Well, someone's personality is the combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. Okay? So, in other words, it is all the things that make you, you, right? All of those qualities, all of those characteristics that are particular to you and your character. That is your personality. So, of course, we all have unique personalities. No 2 people are exactly the same, right? We all have differences. They might be minor differences or they might be big differences. But of course, everyone has differences in their personality. And of course, this also means that we might prefer to be around certain people because we like their distinct personality, or we might not like being around certain people because we don't like their personality. So certain personalities go well with each other, and certain personalities clash. In English, when we use the word clash, we're saying that 2 things don't combine well. They don't go well together. For example, I could say to someone, the color of your shirt and the color of your pants clash. What I'm saying is these two colors don't match well. They don't combine well, right? They don't look good together. They clash. We also like to use the phrase culture clash when we're talking about two different cultures that might not go well together. There might be some conflicts between people because of their cultural differences. This is referred to as culture clash. So, returning back to the topic, certain personalities clash with each other. This means that not everyone will get along well. When we use the phrase get along, we're talking about how people interact with each other in a positive or a negative way. For example, if I get along well with my sister-in-law, this means that we are good together, we have fun, we don't fight, we agree on a lot of things, we get along well. But if I don't get along well with someone, this means that we fight or we argue, etc. So certain personalities go well with other types of personalities, and certain personalities clash or don't get along well with other personalities. So some people think that our personality is shaped by our genetics, is shaped by just natural forces. People might think that a baby already has most of his or her personality in the early stages of their life. Other people might think that personality is something that we develop over the years of our life, and we're not born 100% with a specific type of personality, but it develops over time. I'm kind of in the middle. I think that personality has a lot to do with our genetics, but it also has a lot to do with how we're raised, right? We use the word raise in English to talk about parents bringing up their children. So, for example, I would say, I grew up in a small family, but I would say my parents raised me well, right? So I grow up, but my parents raise me. So I think that the way that parents raise their children can also play a big role in helping the child's personality develop. So I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but I think that both nature and nurture play a role in developing a personality. In English, we use the phrase nature and nurture, or nature versus nurture, to talk about two different ideas. The idea of nature means that we are born a certain way, right? It is natural for us to have a certain personality because we were born with that personality. That's just how we were made. And when we say nurture, we're talking about parents raising children. So if I say the parent nurtured her young, I'm talking about a parent raising her child and giving the child what he needs and providing for the child and giving the child love, etc. So that's what we mean when we say nature versus nurture. So let's talk about some personality traits, okay? So one of the big distinctions between personalities is extroversion versus introversion. So some people are extroverts and some people are introverts. An extrovert is someone who loves to socialize, and they feed off of social situations. When we say that someone or something feeds off of something else, we're saying that this person or thing gets energy or life from that other thing. So an extrovert feeds off of social situations. They get energy and life from these situations. They love these types of environments. These types of situations are very natural for extroverts. They like being in social situations. They like talking and interacting a lot. However, other people are introverts. An introvert is some. Welcome back to the second part of our special podcast series dedicated to English learners. In this episode, we shift our focus from discussing the weather to exploring the fascinating world of advertising. Whether you're curious about the power of advertising or eager to improve your language comprehension. Let's move on now and talk a little bit about our other topic, which is advertising. This is a very important and relevant topic because all of us, or almost all of us, see ads or advertisements every day. If you use social media, you undoubtedly see many ads, right? So we have different types of ads. For example, I just mentioned social media ads. So ads on Instagram and Facebook and other social media platforms. And those ads can be photos or videos or maybe just text, but they come in different forms. We also have print ads. A print ad just means that it's printed out on a piece of paper. So like in the newspaper, you'll see ads, but nowadays many people have switched from physical newspapers to online news. So these types of physical ads are becoming less popular, I think. And then we have TV ads, which we call commercials. And these commercials run in between programs and during breaks in the middle of TV shows. We have those commercials. And another one I just thought of is billboards. A billboard is that giant rectangle that you see when you're driving on the freeway or maybe just a normal street. You'll see these big rectangular signs that advertise companies, products, TV shows, etc. These are called billboards. I still see many billboards here in my city, and I'm sure you still see some billboards in your city too. These have been around for a long time. So, advertising has changed a lot since the past. In the past, print ads were very, very important. They were probably the first ads that we had before television and radio and social media. You could only print your advertisements or maybe just say them to someone. Tell someone about your product. But as the time went on, we saw we saw ads being revolutionized and changed. And so we began to hear radio ads and, of course, TV commercials. And for me, when I think of the past, when I think of my childhood, I can remember many commercials. Many commercials stuck with me over the years. When I say they stuck with me, this means that they stayed in my memory. They stayed in my brain. So if I say, what my dad said stuck with me for many years, I'm saying that what my dad said stayed in my brain for many years. So many commercials stuck with me, and I still remember them now. For example, I remember certain commercials about not doing drugs. When I was a kid, we saw many commercials that tried to persuade children and teenagers to not do drugs or not smoke or things like that. And I can vividly remember these ads, these commercials. And so I think the advertisers at that time did a really good job because I can remember the exact words from those ads. Another one I remember was a Carl's Jr. commercial. Carl's Jr. is a hamburger chain, right? A chain is a restaurant or store that has many locations throughout the country or the world, like Starbucks, Subway, etc. So I remember this Carl's Jr. commercial where the man was eating this huge burger, and they did such a good job with the sound effects. It sounded so tasty the way he was eating it. And I remember when he sipped the soda, it sounded so refreshing. When you sip something, that means that you drink it through a straw. You know, those long cylinders that you use to drink soda or other drinks. So sip is when you go, you sip it. So I remember him sipping the soda, and it sounded so good. And that commercial has stuck with me even until now. So they did a really good job with that commercial, that advertisement. Nowadays, commercials are not the main form of advertisement when it comes to reaching young people. I know old people or older people still watch a lot of TV, so they see a lot of commercials. But younger people don't watch a lot of TV. They prefer to stream things on their devices, and they spend a lot of time on social media. So nowadays, advertisements or advertisers usually focus on social media ad campaigns, and they have to be really effective with how they construct their ad, because we see so many ads every day, and so we kind of just skip over these ads. We don't look at them. So the advertisers have to be really creative with the way they construct their ads so that we actually want to stop and click on the link in the ad, right? It's difficult. I know this because I'm currently trying to run some ads on Facebook for my website, and it's not easy to make a really effective ad. And so I have a lot to learn. I don't really like this. I'm not good at marketing, advertising, etc. I'm not very creative in that way, so it's not natural for me. But I have to do it if I want to reach people and tell them about my business. So today, anyone who has a company has to consider social media ads as an option to reach new clients, right? So it's not easy. I don't like it, as I said, but I can't avoid it. I have to do it. So yeah, it's something that I just have to deal with. But yeah, advertising is definitely an art form. There are people that are really good at it. There are people that are not so good at it. And it takes a lot of practice and creativity. All right, well, we're going to stop there for today. Hopefully these topics were interesting for you, and hopefully you understood most of what I said. A lot. However, other people are introverts. An introvert is someone who maybe they like talking, maybe they don't, but the key is that they don't feed off of these social situations, these social interactions. They don't necessarily thrive in these situations, in social settings. They might be good speakers and they might not have trouble talking to other people, and they might actually like socializing, but usually afterwards, they feel like they need to be alone, right? After being in a social setting for a while, they might say, okay, I just want to go home and be by myself for a while, right? They actually like being alone. They like being in silence or by themselves. But an extrovert, on the other hand, always wants to have those types of social situations, right? They don't need a ton of alone time. So this is one of the big differences between people's personalities. I would say that I'm an introvert, but I'm an introvert who actually likes talking and socializing. So I like being around other people, and I like talking to other people. And of course, I'm a teacher, so I like teaching other people. And so another big distinction between personalities is the type A versus type B personality. If you've never heard of this before, what this refers to is type A refers to people who are very organized. They're very manic, right? They stress out about many things. Their brain is constantly running, and they're constantly planning things for the future. They're organizing their day really well. They have more anxiety about things, but they're also very conscientious people, versus type B personalities. If you have a type B personality, this means that you're more easygoing, you're more laid back, right? When we say laid back, we're saying that you're not too stressed out or too anxious about things. You're more relaxed, right? Type B personalities oftentimes don't plan things or just take things day by day without a very concrete plan, and they might not be as goal-oriented as type A personalities, but they're more relaxed. So each type of personality, type A and type B, has its advantages and its negatives, right? I'm a type A personality. I'm very manic, right? I'm an anxious person. And so this is a negative thing in my opinion. I don't like having anxiety. I don't like that type of feeling. But the positive part about being a type A person is that you accomplish a lot of things, and you're very goal-oriented, and you're very organized, and you can plan things very well. So this is the positive part. And in terms of type B personalities, the positive is that these people are very relaxed. They don't have as much stress. They're probably healthier, mentally speaking. But the negative is that they probably have a tougher time achieving goals because they don't plan out their day or their goals very well, or they just might not accomplish the things that they would accomplish if they were a type A personality. So I'm speaking in general terms, of course, but these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of each type of personality. Another distinction between personalities is that some people are open to new things and some people are more closed to new things. So if you're open to new things, you're probably excited to try new food and go to different places and do different activities. But if you're more closed to new things, you might feel more comfortable with your routine, with the same food that you normally eat. You're more comfortable not trying new hobbies or activities all the time. So, of course, this is another distinction between people's personalities. And there are positives and negatives associated with each type, of course. I would say that I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm open to a lot of new things, but with some other things, some other aspects of life, I'm very closed. So for me, it just depends on what subject we're talking about, really. Sometimes I'm very open, sometimes I'm not. Another difference between personalities is that some people are very independent and some people prefer to be in groups or prefer a more collective community. So people who are independent, they're usually the type of people who spend more time alone. They might try new things on their own or try to accomplish things without other people's help. They might do more difficult tasks that other people might not do because they're independent. They don't want to rely on other people. In English, when we say the word rely, we're saying depend. Rely and depend have the same meaning. So if I say I rely on my parents, I'm saying that I depend on my parents. So people who are independent don't rely on other people, so they tend to do difficult things alone without other people's help. Of course, this type of personality has positives and negatives, right? The positives are that these people don't have to depend on other people and they can probably start things and finish things on their own and accomplish many things, and they can do new things. But the negative is that they might not have the same type of community, or they might not have as many people to depend on. And then people who are more group-oriented, these people probably don't want to try a ton of new things or difficult things on their own, right? They want to stay with the group and do the things that their group is doing. And so this type of personality also has positives and negatives. The positives are that these people probably have good relationships with other people. They probably have a good circle of friends or family members who they can rely on and who they can work with. So that's great. But the negative might be that these types of people always need to rely on other people in order to do things, or they might not be able to accomplish certain tasks on their own. So, of course, again, I'm speaking generally, but these are some of the positives and negatives that I can think of when I think about these personality types. I'll stop there for today. Hopefully this episode was interesting for you, and hopefully it was good practice for your listening comprehension. Okay, thank you for listening to this episode. All right, in today's episode, we're going to talk about fast food. This is a good topic because I think all of us have eaten fast food, or maybe we have the habit of eating fast food on a regular basis. So I'll talk a little bit about that today and about different things related to that topic. All right, let's get started. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. Okay, let's talk about fast food. So first of all, I want to talk about the difference between fast food and junk food, because many of my students confuse these two phrases, these two terms, and they use the word junk food when they really want to say fast food. So fast food refers to these restaurants like McDonald's or Burger King or places like that, where you can go in, get your food really fast. It's not really a sit-down restaurant. You can sit down in there, but they don't serve you with waiters or waitresses or anything like that. You just order at the counter, and then they give you your food, and then you take it to your table. So in fast food establishments, you pay at the counter, and then they call your name or your number, and you come get your food, and then you can either take that to go or you can eat that there. In English, when we use the phrase to go in this context, we're talking about ordering food and then taking that to your home, not eating at the restaurant. We say, I'm ordering that to go. So you can either order something for here or to go. If you travel to the US, these are the two phrases you'll hear a lot at any type of restaurant, especially a fast food place. They'll say, would you like that for here or to go? Okay. So a lot of people eat fast food at the restaurant, and a lot of people also order it to go. It just depends on people's preferences. So this is fast food. That's what I'm referring to when I say fast food. Junk food, on the other hand, this is food that isn't good for you. Any food. And usually we use this term to refer to processed food that you might buy from the store, like a bag of chips, for example, or a chocolate bar or something like this. Junk food is just any food that isn't good for you. So it's not referring to McDonald's or Burger King and those places. It could possibly be referring to those depending on the context, but it's a general term for every food that isn't good for you. And we use it especially for processed foods, right? Whereas fast food is specifically used to talk about these types of restaurants, okay? So let's talk about the pros and cons of fast food. So the first big pro, the first benefit of fast food is that it's very easy to get, right? It's very simple. You can go in, order very fast, and be out of there very quickly with a full meal. And you can also use the drive-through. In English, this phrase refers to the part of a fast food restaurant where you stay in your car and you order from your car and drive up to the window and pay, and they give you your food. So that's called the drive-through. So that's obviously very easy. You don't even need to get out of your car if you don't want to. So it's very easy to order fast food and to pay for it and take it home. It's a very fast and easy process. So that's a good thing. And it's usually fairly cheap, especially compared to other sit-down restaurants. So this is more accessible than just a normal restaurant, and so more people can afford it. So that's another good thing. And it's also tasty. People really like fast food. It can be very addictive because the flavoring is very good usually. So a lot of people just really like fast food. So that could be another good thing about it, depending on how you look at it. However, there are a lot of cons to eating fast food, of course, and primarily the actual nutrients that you're eating. So fast food usually has low quality ingredients. That's maybe the biggest problem, right? I'm not saying that every ingredient that's used at every fast food restaurant is bad. I'm not saying that, but I think a lot of the ingredients that they use are a lower quality than ingredients that might be used at another restaurant or ingredients that you might want to buy from the grocery store, for example. So the problem isn't that they use chicken. The problem is that they use really poor quality chicken that you wouldn't normally want to buy if you had the choice, right? Or the problem isn't that they use beef, it's that they use poor quality beef. And who knows what's in that beef, what they were feeding those cows, what type of hormones or antibiotics are in there. You don't know that. And so that's probably the biggest issue with fast food, is that the quality of the ingredients are suspect. In English, when we say that something is suspect, we're saying that it's a little suspicious, right? We can't trust it completely. So that's a big con. And in general, there are a lot of unhealthy options at fast food restaurants, right? So not all their food is healthy, obviously. So aside from just the quality of the ingredients, the actual meals themselves are not the most beneficial for your health, right? And of course, these meals are very calorie rich. So in just one meal, you're probably consuming tons of calories. So for people that have trouble with their weight, for example, if they eat one combo at one of these restaurants, it's probably gonna make them gain weight, and it will probably be not very beneficial overall for their health. So the cons are about the actual nutrients and the ingredients themselves. So let's talk about who eats fast food in the US. So a lot of people eat fast food on a regular basis, or they go there once in a while, or maybe just for special occasions. Not really special occasions, but if they're in a hurry and they have nothing to eat and they just need to pick something up really fast, they're in a difficult situation or they're in a hurry or something, then they might pick up fast food. So it's not part of their normal routine, but they don't have any other choice. So a lot of people eat fast food. Talk to many students of mine in different parts of the world that really like fast food. They think it tastes great, or they really love going to McDonald's in their country. And I know that the same fast food restaurants have food that tastes different in different countries. So a hamburger from McDonald's might taste different in the US and in Spain, for example. So I thought that was pretty interesting to try fast food for the first time abroad when I ate it in Mexico. And then also when I ate it in Spain as well, I could taste some difference in the fast food. It's pretty interesting. And let me talk a little bit about my experience with fast food. When I was really young, I didn't eat fast food. My mom did not want us to eat fast food. I don't even remember having a normal hamburger for years when I was young. I think I discovered it a little bit later than other kids. I'm not saying that hamburgers in general are fast food. Definitely not. But I'm just saying that in general, I didn't even try my first hamburger until after, the normal time when other kids were already eating hamburgers. So I didn't know much about fast food when I was a young child. But then eventually we started to eat a little bit of fast food. Not very often, but we would go there once in a while. And when I ate the most fast food in my life was when I was in high school. Like I mentioned before, this is a very common thing in the US where high schoolers will go to a nearby fast food establishment after school. And this is what I did. Almost every single day after school, a group of people would go to one of the few different fast food establishments that were right near the high school. And so I didn't eat this every day, but every day there were people that I knew, friends of mine, that went to one of these places. So I had this option. I could always go with one of these people or with a group of people to go eat fast food. And many other high schoolers do the same thing. So that's when I ate the most fast food. I probably ate it every week because so many of my friends went there on a very regular basis. So I ate a lot of that type of food when I was in high school. So obviously that wasn't very good for me. But as an adult, I stopped eating fast food very often. I ate it once in a while. And a lot of adults, even if they have money, even if they have other options, they still like eating fast food because it tastes good. A lot of people have a craving for a certain fast food item from a certain restaurant, right? In English, when we say that you have a craving, we're saying that you have a very strong desire for something in this moment. So a lot of people have that craving as an adult, even if they know they should eat somewhere else, they still eat fast food. But as an adult, I haven't eaten much fast food. I go once in a while, but I don't really have those cravings, to be honest. For me, it doesn't seem like something that I need to have in this moment. So I think that's good because I don't have this addiction, but many other people do have this addiction. So that's a very common thing. But nowadays, I eat fast food once in a while when we don't have a choice or we need something fast, then I'll get it. If I'm not in that situation, then I don't usually eat this. And what is my favorite fast food? My favorite fast food restaurant is In-N-Out. You might have heard of this before. It's really popular in California. And a lot of people really like this fast food restaurant because their ingredients are fresh. They're actually good quality. I know this because my sister used to work there. So I was able to see that their ingredients were of a better quality than other fast food restaurants. So it wasn't quite as unhealthy. And I think it tastes better. It doesn't feel as bad to eat. You don't feel as guilty afterwards. So I like In-N-Out. I really like their food. So that's my favorite place. And I also like to go to McDonald's for their ice cream and their shakes. I used to drink those when I was younger. So for dessert, maybe McDonald's. But for the food, In-N-Out is definitely the best quality of fast food, in my opinion. All right, well, why don't we stop there for today? I hope this episode was interesting for you, and I hope it was good practice for your listening skills. The way we can use the phrasal verb take on when talking about hiring employees. So if they want to take on employees, they'll have to factor in this cost, and it seems like a very big cost for a lot of people. So some people might choose not to hire employees or not to hire more employees because it's too expensive. And so this can be a big negative, of course. This can hurt the economy because businesses have trouble starting or growing, and that results in fewer jobs and higher unemployment sometimes. So, of course, there are some pros and cons to having a lot of vacation days. And how about school vacation? So when I was growing up in California, I think that most schools had 2.5 months of vacation in summer. So that was what I had for most of my school career until I was in 10th grade. And then something happened. Something changed. The schedule changed so that we switched to a year-round schedule. That's what it's called. So with this new year-round schedule, suddenly, instead of having 2.5 months or almost 3 months of summer vacation, we only had 1.5 months of summer vacation. So it was a big change, and most of us were not happy about this, but there were some other good things about this schedule, and that's because it added more vacation time throughout the year. So before we switched to that schedule, I think that our winter break was 2 weeks, and then it changed to 3 weeks when we changed to this schedule. And then spring break was just 1 week, and then that changed to 2 weeks. And then we got an extra break during the fall, which we hadn't had before. So that was a good thing, and overall, it ended up being good for most people because instead of just having one long vacation in the summer, we had a lot of medium length vacations throughout the year. So it kind of distributed the vacation time more evenly throughout the year. And so that ended up being a good thing, for me at least. I'm sure some people preferred to have a really long summer break, but for me, it seemed okay. And so throughout the school year, we had these different breaks, these different vacations, and we always looked forward to the next one. The phrase look forward to means that you anticipate something in the future with excitement. You want it to happen. You're waiting for it to come. So we always looked forward to the next vacation. That was always something exciting for us. And lastly, what did I do when I used to have vacation time as a student? Because I've never really had vacation time as an adult, because I've worked independently basically my whole career. And so when I used to have vacation time, when I didn't need to work and my parents took care of me, and I had those breaks throughout the year, we did many fun things. I have great memories of my vacation time as a kid and as a teenager. So we took a lot of family vacations. I would say that every year we usually took one pretty big family vacation. It wasn't always a huge vacation. We didn't go to other countries usually, besides Mexico a couple times. But we went to different states, different cities, different nature places. And so we took a lot of family vacations that I have great memories of. And I'm very thankful that we did that as a family when I was a kid. I remember going to Hawaii a few times with my family, and I will never forget those vacations. They're still very clear in my mind. I remember a lot of the places that we went to, the things that we did. I really enjoyed that. And we took quite a few road trips as well. I remember taking road trips throughout the Southwest of the U.S. For example, driving from California all the way up to Idaho, actually, which is not in the Southwest, but we drove through Utah, Arizona, Nevada, those places. And I have great memories of that time. So we took road trips. We also went to Mexico, as I mentioned, but just to the northern part that's close to the border with San Diego. But I remember driving down there a couple times with my family and spending some time in Mexico. And we also went camping every summer. I really loved this. It was one of the best traditions that my family had. And I really want to start this tradition with my family now, because I love camping and I love the tradition of camping as a family and kind of spending that time outdoors, sleeping in a tent. I know that's not the most comfortable thing, but it's a fun experience, you know, being around the fire and kind of helping your children love that environment and appreciate that type of trip. I really want to give that to my son and my future kids. So I loved camping. I loved playing outside throughout the summer during that vacation, going fishing, spending time out in nature, running around with my friends, things like that. And so, as you can see, I really appreciated my vacation time as a kid. And I hope my kids do as well. I hope that they have some great memories that they can cherish forever about their vacation time. By the way, the word cherish just means that you really love or appreciate something. Something is important to you. So I hope that they can cherish their memories of their vacation time that they had during their childhood. All right, why don't we stop there for today? I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening to this episode.
Hello, dear followers of this TikTok AirMIT.os channel. I'm glad to hear that the videos I've uploaded are helping you. The original podcast is free and available on various platforms. It is the best podcast I have ever listened to. It has high-quality audio, clarity of pronunciation, and the topics it talks about are very interesting. Also, as you have said in some of the comments, he has a soothing or engaging voice. It really is an amazing podcast that helps you perfect your listening comprehension of the English language. You can search for it as Listening Time. In each episode, an American speaker talks about different topics in an authentic way. Without reading pre-scripted scripts, he expresses himself naturally, using native words and phrases, but with a slightly slower speed and clarity than other native speakers. In addition, each episode includes a full transcript, giving you the opportunity to follow along with the content and improve your comprehension. Search for Listening Time on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, among others, and start improving your English level. For me, the videos have been very useful, and I have been able to improve my English level. I find the subtitles very helpful for those who are starting to learn the language. If you like this learning resource, I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to follow me. Soon, I will be uploading my own podcasts with topics that you have requested. Write a comment with the topic you would like to hear.
But it was worth it because in a very short time, we had arrived at the viewpoint of Machu Picchu. And when you first see the view of the ruins, it's like magic, right? It's really, really awesome. You've probably seen pictures of Machu Picchu in books or in magazines or on the internet before. And so I know I had seen many pictures before. So it was so surreal for me to actually be there and to see that view in person. It was really amazing. And so I think that we sat down and just looked at the ruins and observed the scenery for a long time. We probably did that for an hour, just looking at the site. It was so amazing because it's really isolated. You don't have a lot of other signs of civilization nearby. It's at the top of this mountain, and around you are other mountains and hills and rocks, and there's nothing there. And so you can understand why this place was hidden from the rest of the world for so long, because it was probably really hard to find it. It's definitely isolated in the mountains. But yeah, we walked down and walked through the ruins, through the different parts of the city. And we didn't take a tour, but we did listen a little bit to the other tours that were around us, because many people were taking tours and we could hear the tour guides talking. So even though we didn't pay for a tour, we were still able to listen and learn a lot about the site. So Machu Picchu was definitely the highlight of the trip, of course, but it wasn't the only site that we visited. We visited probably 4 or 5 other archaeological sites as well, and they were all incredible, really. But they're not as famous because Machu Picchu is way more famous than every other place there. So people don't really think about these other cool sites because they're mainly interested in Machu Picchu. So it's understandable, but I just want you to know that there are other really cool sites there as well. So in regards to the food, unfortunately, I didn't go to many good food places to eat, and that's because my friend is not the type of person who's really interested in trying a bunch of food. So unfortunately, I didn't try all the foods that I wanted to try, but I did try guinea pig. If you don't know what guinea pig is, this is a small animal. It's a little bigger than a rat, but it kind of looks like a rat. It's a pet in many countries. In the United States, many people have guinea pigs as pets. But in places like Peru and Ecuador and places like that, people eat guinea pigs. So I thought it would be cool to try one. So we went to a restaurant near our hostel and I ate a whole guinea pig. I can't say that it was delicious. It definitely wasn't. But it was interesting. It wasn't horrible, but it definitely didn't taste like chicken. It had a distinct flavor to it. So I don't really know how to describe the flavor exactly, but I recommend you try guinea pig if you ever go to Peru. It's a fun experience, I think. And one last thing that's interesting about Cusco and the areas around there with high altitude is that you find and you see these coca leaves everywhere. Coca leaves are leaves of the coca plant, and this is the same plant that is used to make cocaine, I believe. And so these leaves are used to help you not get sick from the high altitude. So people drink coca leaf tea there to help them with their altitude sickness. So my friend and I drank this tea multiple times every day to help us not feel so bad from the high altitude, because it's easy to feel sick when you're so high up. So that was a funny thing that I remember from there, is that we were constantly drinking coca leaf tea, but coca leaves are illegal in many countries, like in the United States. So that was an experience that I probably won't have again unless I return to Peru. So hopefully it was interesting for you to hear a little bit about my trip to Peru. And I know I didn't teach you a lot about the country, but that's okay. I'm sure you can go there at some point in the future and learn more, or you can just learn online. And if you really want to go, then I recommend it. I highly recommend it. I think that it's a marvelous place to travel to, and specifically Machu Picchu, is amazing, of course. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, I can assure you that this podcast will be very helpful for you in practicing your listening skills. So this podcast is for people who want to practice their listening, but who still can't understand native speakers when they speak at normal speed or when they speak with other native speakers. If you can't yet understand native speech like that, then this podcast is perfect for you. I'm speaking a little more clearly and a little bit more slowly so that you can understand me better. And so this is the format of the podcast. I talk about a couple different topics each time in a clear and a little bit slower way, but still natural speech. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to talk about 2 different topics. I'm going to talk about breakfast, and I'm going to talk about camping. All right, so first, we're going to talk about breakfast. This is actually a really good topic for me. This is one of my favorite topics because breakfast is probably my favorite meal of the day, right? We usually have 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or maybe in your country there are more than 3 meals. But in most cultures and most countries, we have some kind of breakfast, right? It's the first meal of the day. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about the American breakfast, the classic American breakfast. People see a certain style of American breakfast when they watch American movies and TV shows, and for the most part, this image of the American breakfast is pretty accurate, but what I would say is that we don't eat this type of breakfast every day. So, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on weekdays, most Americans don't have time to make a big breakfast, right? We have to get ready, we have to prepare ourselves for our day at work, and we don't have a bunch of time to cook breakfast in the morning. So many Americans tend to make a simple breakfast, or they might not even cook anything. They might just eat cereal and milk, right? When I was in elementary school, middle school, and sometimes when I was in high school, I would eat cereal for breakfast. I loved cereal, and it wasn't a bad breakfast. I actually enjoyed this. I'm sure many of the listening time listeners, probably enjoy cereal as well. It's good. There's a reason why it's so popular among people everywhere in the world. Some of my favorite breakfasts were, Honey Nut Cheerios, Apple Cinnamon Cheerios, Apple Jacks, a lot of different cereals. But many Americans eat cereal on the weekdays, but on the weekends, we like to eat a bigger breakfast. You've probably seen the American breakfast in TV shows or movies where the family sits down and eats eggs and bacon and pancakes and all kinds of things like that. We don't do that every weekend, for sure, but it's definitely something that we do often, right? Or we like to go out to restaurants to eat breakfast there. So maybe we don't want to cook pancakes at home, but we want someone else to cook pancakes for us. So we go out to some breakfast restaurant on Saturdays or Sundays. This is pretty common. I did this a lot when I was growing up with my family, or even as an adult. I still do this a lot. So breakfast in other countries besides America is very different, right? I haven't traveled to many countries, but in the countries where I have traveled to, I've noticed big differences in the type of breakfast that people eat. So in Europe, for example, breakfast is very small, right? I was really surprised when I first went to Europe, when I was in Spain and in Portugal. I realized that breakfast is not a big meal there, right? If you're from Europe, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For many Europeans, breakfast is simply a piece of bread with some butter or jam, toast, I should say, buttered toast or toast with jam, or some kind of sweet bread or something like that, plus orange juice or coffee, right? And that's it. Maybe in France, people might just eat a croissant and a cup of coffee or a small espresso, and that's it. For me, as an American, that's tough. That's not easy for me to eat and not eat anything else, right? I want a little bit more than that. But I know that some people don't want to eat that much for breakfast, right? I understand that. And I'm sure some of my listeners in other places around the world have even different styles of breakfast, not just like American or European, but something else that I just don't know. So I'd be interested to learn about breakfasts all over the world. And my typical breakfast is kind of like an American breakfast, a typical American breakfast. Nowadays, my wife usually cooks me eggs, bacon, and maybe even hash browns or toast or something like that. Hash browns are potatoes that we eat for breakfast. I don't really know how to describe them very well. They're kind of fried, or maybe they're not. I don't know, but they taste very good. You've probably seen them before. They're called hash browns. So I sometimes eat that. And usually we also eat some fruit for breakfast. So mango, papaya, apples, something like that. Or maybe yogurt, maybe a little bit of vegetables. There's different options, but I definitely love my bacon and eggs for breakfast. I love that combination. So that's one of my favorite breakfasts. And then in regards to coffee is another big part of our breakfast. Not me personally, but Americans in general. People tend to drink a pretty big cup of coffee in the morning. You've probably seen that before. They don't normally just drink small espresso shots. People often drink a big mug of coffee. A mug is the type of cup where you put hot drinks in, like tea, coffee, hot chocolate, etc. It's that cup that has the circular handle on it. This is called a mug. So Americans often drink a mug of coffee. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, I can assure you that this podcast will be very helpful for you in practicing your listening skills. So this podcast is for people who want to practice their listening, but who still can't understand native speakers when they speak at normal speed or when they speak with other native speakers. If you can't yet understand native speech like that, then this podcast is perfect for you. Okay, so in this episode, I'm going to talk about two different topics. I'm going to talk about breakfast, and I'm going to talk about camping. So let's move on to our second subject for today, which is camping. This is another subject that I really like because I really like camping. Simple as that. I'm American, of course, so I'm going to speak to you from an American perspective. Camping is a great pastime in the U.S. Pastime is kind of like an activity, entertainment, hobby, something like that. Camping is definitely a popular thing in the U.S. I think most Americans have probably been camping at least once in their life. That might not be an accurate statistic, but in my opinion, I think at least half of Americans have been camping once in their life. When I was younger, I went camping with my family and some family friends every summer. So starting from the time when I was probably 1 or 2 years old until the time when I was around 16 or 17, we went camping every year, I think, practically every year. And we would usually go in June, July, or August when the weather was really nice. And we went to many different campsites, I should say. A campsite is just a place where people can camp. Usually you have to pay money, but it's not a ton of money. You can usually afford it. It's not too expensive. So we went to many campsites when I was younger, and some of the campsites were more crowded, and they had more people, and some campsites were more remote. When something is remote, that means that there aren't many people there, right? It's a little less crowded. It's a little farther away from society. Remote really means that it's kind of far away from the rest of society. So I've camped in remote places and in places closer to the city. But regardless of where I went, I always liked it, and I still like it. But I don't go very often anymore, unfortunately. In other countries, camping is not a very big thing. I know this. I've talked to students from many places, and in many countries, camping is simply not an activity that the population enjoys. For example, in Mexico, very few people go camping. This is not a very popular activity, and I think many Mexicans would feel unsafe going camping, right? They don't want to be far away from civilization, far away from their city. That would strike a little fear in them, probably. Not all Mexicans, but some of them. So I looked at Google Maps recently, and I was looking for campsites in Mexico around a pretty popular city. and I could barely find 2 or 3 campsites within 2 hours driving from this really big city. And I was really surprised because in the US, if you Google campsites on Google Maps, you'll see campsites everywhere, right? There are so many options for Americans to go camping. So it was a surprise for me to see this on Google Maps in Mexico. So camping is much more popular in the US than it is in many other countries. I know it's also popular, I think, in many Asian countries and maybe in Northern Europe, but I'm not sure where else camping is popular. In terms of my experience or my love for camping, I would say that the reason why I like camping so much is the spirit of camping. That's what I'll call it, the spirit of camping, right? What I'm talking about is the act of leaving civilization, leaving the city, and going into nature and surviving and being there without a lot of appliances and tools and electronics and everyday things, just being there with your tent and your fire and of course a few tools and just enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying the environment. For me, this is a really fantastic feeling. It's relaxing and it's fun. I think this is actually really fun. I like doing activities when I camp. For example, I love going hiking when I camp. I love going fishing, for example. These are activities that you can enjoy in nature, in the peace and quiet. They're really fun, in my opinion. Maybe some of you might think that fishing or hiking is boring, but for me, I don't know. They're really fun activities, and I especially like doing them because I'm in nature. I think that's the main component of the spirit of camping, is being in nature, right? We don't often spend time in nature because most of us live in cities. So when we get the opportunity to go into nature, it's really nice. It's something different, right? I think that this is the reason why I like camping so much. I'm not a great camper. I'm not very good at building a fire or pitching the tent, right? When you pitch a tent, this means that you put the tent up, right? You put it together, right? So I'm not good at pitching the tent or building the fire or doing a lot of other stuff, but I'm happy to help the other people accomplish these tasks, right? I really should learn to build fires and pitch tents better because I want to have this skill, but I've just never paid too much attention to this. I'm always the one helping, not the one leading the effort. But yeah, I really like sitting around the campfire at night as well. This is probably the funnest part of the camping trip, is when it's dark and you're with your friends or family and you're sitting around the campfire and you're roasting marshmallows. So, we're about done for today. So, thank you for listening to today's episode, and I hope you come back for episode 3 of the Listening Time Podcast.
4 things you have to stop doing immediately. Most people ignore the last one, and I'm going to explain to you how the 1 is stronger than you realize. You're going to want to like and save this video for future reference. 1. Stop regretting the past. Release the grip of past regrets as they can't be changed. Embrace the lessons learned and step into a brighter future. 2. Stop worrying about the future. Free yourself from worrying about the unknown future and trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. 3. Stop looking for your happiness in other people. Seek happiness within yourself rather than relying on others to provide it, and watch your positivity attract joyous connections. 4. Stop underestimating your inner strength. Believe in your abilities and embrace your resilience. Every setback is an opportunity to grow, learn, and become even more magnificent. Embrace challenges with courage and determination, knowing that they are stepping stones towards the life you desire. Drop a 100 if you read this far. This shows you are part of the 0.01% who actually finish what they start.
Welcome. If this is your first time listening, I'm happy to have you here with us. This podcast is for English learners who want to improve their listening skills, who want to practice their comprehension, and become better listeners. All right, in today's episode, we're going to talk about nostalgia. So first of all, what is nostalgia? Well, nostalgia is a feeling of pleasure and also a little sadness when you think about things from the past. So I'm sure you've had this sensation before where you think about something from your childhood or something from the past, and it makes you smile, and it's really fun to remember this thing. But you get a little bit sad when you think about the fact that this time has passed and you're never gonna live that experience again. So if you've had that feeling before, then you've experienced nostalgia. So we'll talk about that today. So first of all, why do we feel nostalgia? What is the reason behind nostalgia? Well, I thought of a few things. So first of all, of course, we have a lot of memories that we really cherish. So we have a lot of memories that we really cherish from the past, good things that happened, things that were really fun or really interesting, or that impacted us a lot, or things that we appreciated, anything like that. And so, of course, one reason why we have nostalgia is we think about these good memories and we enjoy recalling them, and we feel a little bit sad when we think about the fact that those times are over. So one reason we have nostalgia is because we have good memories of the past. Another reason why we experience nostalgia is because we tend to appreciate things more when they're gone, once they're over. I'm sure you've experienced this before, where you didn't really appreciate something while you had it, but then when you lost it, or it disappeared, or it went away, or the time ended, then afterwards you think, wow, I miss that. We tend to appreciate things more when they're gone. So that's another reason why we might have nostalgia, because now when we look back on the things in the past, we appreciate them more because now we're not experiencing them anymore. They're gone, and so we kind of esteem them more, or more highly now. So you esteem these things more highly once they're past, once they're gone. So that's another reason. And one other reason why we have nostalgia is that we tend to view the past with rose-colored glasses. You're a little bit unrealistic in how you view something. You're unrealistically positive. So we view the past with rose-colored glasses, and we tend to remember all of the good things, all of the amazing memories from before, and we often have this feeling that the past was better than the present. I'm sure you've felt that before. I'm sure you've talked about that with other people when you think back to your childhood or your earlier years and you think, oh, that was a simpler time. We view the past very positively when compared to the present. So those are all reasons why we might have nostalgia. And what provokes nostalgia? What makes us feel this? What triggers this? There are a lot of things, actually. For example, if you see an old photograph, you see a picture of you and your friends or something from the past, this might fill you with nostalgia when you think of those past days or the good times you had with your old friends. Songs can provoke nostalgia. When you hear a song from your childhood or a song that your parents used to listen to when you were younger, things like that, it can really bring up a feeling of nostalgia. It can really make you feel that way. I think that songs have that effect on me when I hear them. I don't listen to much music, but when I hear a song from my childhood or a song that is kind of connected to an earlier period of my life, I can definitely feel a little bit sentimental when I hear that. So songs are a big one. Even tastes and smells. When you taste a certain food or you smell a certain food, for example, this might bring you back to your childhood. So this might be something that you've experienced before, where you eat some food that you haven't had in many years, and then it immediately reminds you of the past, of a time when you used to taste that taste, or smell that smell, for example. So that's another one. Another thing that provokes nostalgia is when you return to places that you used to go to in the past. If you go to an old park that you used to go to as a young kid, for example, that can provoke a feeling of nostalgia when you think of those days when you used to play there. Or if you go back to your old high school or your old elementary school, this can definitely bring up feelings of nostalgia. You think of that time in your life when you attended that school. You remember walking around this campus when you were younger, and you recall those old memories of your school days. So going back to your old school can provoke this feeling. And you might just feel nostalgia when you're talking with someone and they say, "Do you remember when we used to ... Right? They kind of bring up that memory. They reference something from the past. So that can happen during conversations that you have with people that you've known for a long time, or maybe you haven't known them very long and they just reference something that you both experienced separately. They might talk about something, some movie or something from the past that both of you watched as kids, and that can bring up this feeling as well. So there are a lot of things that can provoke nostalgia. Welcome. If this is your first time listening, I'm happy to have you here with us. This podcast is for English learners who want to improve their listening skills, who want to practice their comprehension, and become better listeners. All right, let's talk about some of my favorite childhood activities that I did. Some of my favorite things that I did outdoors, because I did some things indoors as well. I had some fun activities that I did inside, but I want to focus on the outdoor activities today. So the first one that I want to talk about is building a tree house. So you've probably seen this in movies or TV shows before, where the kids build some type of house in their backyard, maybe in a big tree. And this is something that is a pretty classic tradition here in the US. People like tree houses. This is a fun thing for kids. However, I built a tree house that was a little bit different from what you're probably imagining. We didn't build a house that was a closed box like you see in the movies usually. We built a tree house where we just had these different platforms on different branches of the tree. A platform is just a flat space, and in this case, a space where you can stand on. So my friend and I, we built this tree house that had many different platforms at different levels and on different branches, and we would have to climb to the different platforms using these steps that we also built. We used wood and nailed the wood into the tree to build steps that we could step on. I know that this might be a little difficult to visualize, but that's probably the best way that I can describe it. And building this tree house was really fun. I think we had more fun building the tree house than we did playing in the tree house. So it was really fun to construct this, and we were pretty young when we built this. I think I was like 10 years old maybe. So we were young. It was probably a little dangerous, but we did it anyway. Another childhood activity that I wanted to mention is that I actually collected bugs for a time. The word bug just means insect, right? So I actually collected bugs during a brief time in my life. Now, when I look back on this, it seems kind of gross to me. The word gross just means disgusting. So it seems kind of gross when I think back to all the bugs that I collected. I remember that in particular, I collected caterpillars. You know, these things that turn into butterflies, right? So I collected caterpillars, and I remember putting them in a container, and I tried to create a good environment for them in this container. I put leaves and sticks and things like that inside, and I fed them fruit. I remember feeding them cantaloupe, actually. I like to collect them and watch them interact with each other in this container. So I think that I liked to experiment a little bit and see if these bugs would get along with each other. So that's another activity that I did as a kid. And another one was making paper airplanes. So I loved making paper airplanes as a kid, especially because I loved trying to find the different combinations of folds that would result in the best airplane. I don't know if you have much experience making paper airplanes, but of course it really matters how you fold the paper. So if you fold the paper in certain ways and you follow a certain design, you can make a pretty impressive airplane, actually. Some airplanes that we made actually stayed in the air for quite a while. And I remember that we had one design in particular that was the best one. So my neighbor and I found this perfect design that we would recreate time and time again and create these airplanes and try to make them fly as high and as long as possible. And so it was a very intricate design. The word intricate means that something is very detailed. And so this was an intricate design. I still remember how to make this paper airplane even now as an adult. That's how many times I made it. I made it so many times that I still have that muscle memory. I still remember exactly how to make this airplane. So we found that perfect design, and we always tried to improve it or find an even better design. So we found some other combinations of folds that worked pretty well. And another one was something that we called cardboarding. So we would slide down this big hill on pieces of cardboard. Cardboard is that material that is used to package items, to transport them or ship them to another place. So we would cut big pieces of cardboard from these different boxes, and we would sit on them and then slide down this big hill that was behind my house. So this was something that my friend came up with. It didn't always work really well because sometimes the grass grew in a way that didn't allow us to slide very well. So we had to work around that and do our best to be able to make it to the bottom of the hill on this cardboard. But it was actually a little bit dangerous because we weren't able to stop very well. You don't really have a brake system with this type of cardboard, obviously. So if we made it to the bottom of the hill on the cardboard, sometimes we wouldn't be able to stop well, and we would kind of fall off of it, and maybe it would hurt a little bit, or we might run into something. Welcome. If this is your first time listening, I'm happy to have you here with us. This podcast is for English learners who want to improve their listening skills, who want to practice their comprehension, and become better listeners. This podcast is specifically for those English learners who still can't understand real, authentic, normal native speech, and they can't understand native speakers. So, in this episode, I'm going to talk about a couple things. I'm going to talk about the weather, and I'm going to talk about advertising. These are two very different topics, and they're a little random, but who cares? Let's talk about them. All right, let's get started. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. Okay, first, we're going to talk about the weather. This is a very important topic because this is something we talk about almost every day, really. When I talk to people like my students or family members or friends, oftentimes we start the conversation by talking about the weather that day. It's a very common point of discussion. So first, I'll tell you a little bit about the weather in my hometown, which is San Diego, California. And then we'll talk about weather in other parts of the world. So in San Diego, we have famous weather. Our weather is renowned throughout the country because it's known as being very nice, very mild. When something is mild, that means it's not too strong or extreme. So if I say that we have mild winters in San Diego, that means that our winters are not very cold or very extreme. They're mild. Okay? So San Diego has mild weather. We have warm summers. And I think we have warm springs and autumns too, in my opinion. Other people might disagree, but I think they're pretty warm. And then even our winter is not cold. It's mild, like I said. I wouldn't say that it's very warm, but on many days in the wintertime, you can go outside with shorts and a t-shirt. It's very common for people to do that in December or January, depending on the weather that day. It's not always like that in the winter, but many days are like that. So it's a very nice winter, in my opinion, because I don't like cold winters. But if you're used to cold winters and snow and low temperatures, you won't like San Diego winters because it doesn't feel like the winter to people who are accustomed to real winters. Okay? So our weather is classified as semi-arid. Arid just means dry. So if the climate is arid, that means it doesn't rain a lot. So San Diego is semi-arid, and it can also be classified as Mediterranean. So it has similar weather to places like maybe the south of Spain or Portugal or France, Italy, Greece. It probably has similar weather to those places. So it's very nice. It's a famous destination, a popular destination for vacationers because of the weather. So, in terms of weather in other parts of the world, Usually it's more extreme than in San Diego. For example, I have many students in Russia. In Russia, the winters are very cold. It can get down to minus 30 degrees even, right? Depending on where you are. I can't even imagine that type of winter, but I'm sure some of you have experienced that before. In other parts of the world, like in Africa or some parts of Central America, South America, Asia, many places, Europe, in many places it gets really hot. It's the other extreme. I know that in some places it can get up to 50 degrees even. That's pretty crazy. For most of us, that seems really, really hot. Just a side note, since I'm American, I should tell you that in the US, we don't use Celsius, we use Fahrenheit. So normally, if you talk to Americans and you ask them about the weather in their city, they'll respond with something like this. It's 75 degrees today. If you don't know anything about Fahrenheit, that would probably seem crazy. 75 degrees? Well, that's not that hot. It's just a different system of measuring the temperature. In the rest of the world, we use Celsius, but in the US, we use Fahrenheit. So it's a little difficult to talk about the weather with Americans if you're not from America. So in terms of extreme weather, I already mentioned Russian winters or summers in hot countries like in the Sahara, for example. We can see a huge range of temperatures. But we also have extreme weather in terms of storms. So in certain places, we have phenomena like hurricanes or tornadoes or floods or things like that. So, for example, in the southeast of the United States, there are hurricanes like every year. You've probably heard of some of these. The most famous one in the last couple decades was Hurricane Katrina, which was very devastating to the state of Louisiana. So hurricanes can do a lot of damage to a city or to many cities, really. And then tornadoes are a phenomenon that happens in the middle of the U.S. So if you live in places like Oklahoma or Nebraska or Kansas, you're in tornado country. So a tornado is kind of like a circular air pattern that gets really, really strong and can destroy buildings and do a lot of damage. It causes a lot of damage when it rolls through a city in the middle of the U.S. Luckily, I've never experienced hurricanes or tornadoes before, and I hope I never do. And I hope you don't have to deal with those types of storms either. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm glad you found this podcast. It should be a useful tool to help you improve your listening skills in English. The way this podcast works is that I choose one or two topics each episode to talk about, and I talk about them in a normal, natural way without reading any script. I don't prepare anything in advance. I'm not reading anything. I'm just speaking as the words come to my mind. So it's natural speech. However, the one difference is that I speak a little bit more slowly and a little bit more clearly than the average native speaker speaks. So this podcast is designed to help you eventually reach the level where you can just listen to normal podcasts made for English speakers. So today we're going to talk about the topic of healthy lifestyles. Okay, living a healthy lifestyle. This is an important topic, so it's good to talk about, and it should be a good topic for you to listen to while you train your listening skills. Okay, let's get started. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. Okay, so today we're going to talk about living a healthy lifestyle. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about food and nutrition, right? This is one of the pillars of our lifestyle. And so the word pillar means that it's one of the structural elements. It's one of the base things, the important things to support the rest. So our nutrition is a pillar to living a healthy lifestyle. It's foundational. It's very important. So first of all, let's talk about a couple different theories when it comes to nutrition. This is one area in which many people are in disagreement about. So there isn't a consensus on nutrition. When I say there isn't a consensus, I'm saying that not everyone agrees. Not all the experts agree with each other on this point. So some people promote a diet that is more rich in protein and fat. For example, the keto diet or even the carnivore diet. And other people promote a more vegetarian or vegan type of diet where you don't eat any meat or maybe any animal products. So there are many debates about this subject. Some people always promote keto and carnivore diets, and other people always promote their vegan lifestyle. I don't fall on either end of this spectrum. I'm kind of in the middle. I like to eat everything. I eat a balanced diet, as we call it in English. I'm definitely not vegetarian or vegan oriented. I love meat. I love animal products. But I'm not the type of person that only wants to eat these products. I also like vegetables. I like fruit. So I eat a pretty balanced diet. One important thing to note is that the word diet in English can be used to refer to the type of food that you eat. It doesn't always mean that you're restricting your food. Of course, we use the word diet in this way sometimes. We say, I'm on a diet. This means that I'm eating some special food or I'm restricting my calories or something like that. However, if I just say I have a balanced diet or I eat a balanced diet, I'm saying that I just eat balanced food. I'm just talking about my food in general. So we can also use the word diet in that way. So one thing that I really do believe in is eating organic food. So no matter what you eat, if it's meat, vegetables, fruit, whatever, I believe it's always best to go with the organic option if you can. And so the benefits of eating organic food are that you don't get all the harmful chemicals and things like that the food contains if it's been sprayed with pesticides and things like that. And organic food is also GMO free, so it doesn't have any genetically modified organisms in it. So non-GMO food is better in my opinion. So those are some of the benefits of eating organically. Also, the quality of the food is usually much better. The taste is different. It tastes more real, right, if you eat organic food. And, of course, there are some difficult things about wanting to eat organic food, and primarily the accessibility. And the other thing that's a little bit tough is paying for this organic food. When I say the word tough, what I mean is difficult. So we can say that test was tough. In that sentence, I'm saying that test was difficult. It wasn't easy. So the price of organic food is usually higher than the price of non-organic food. And in some places, it might be much higher. So this is one of the hard things about trying to eat organic food. But in my opinion, it's still worth it, and I'm willing to pay more money for better quality food. So now let's talk about food that we should eat in moderation. When we say in moderation in English, we mean that you don't eat a lot of this food. You eat it in smaller quantities. For example, it's good to limit your sugar intake. So your intake just means how much you consume. So you shouldn't consume a lot of sugar in your normal diet. So I'm not saying that sugar is evil and you should never eat it, because I definitely eat sugar, but it's important to limit the amount that we eat. If this is your first time listening, I'd like to welcome you. You are listening to a podcast that's going to help you practice your English listening. So, this podcast is for English learners who can't yet understand native speech. This podcast is for people that want to listen to authentic English, but English that's a little bit clearer and a little bit slower than real normal English. So, in this episode, I'm going to talk about my trip to Peru. So I took a trip to Peru about 2.5 years ago, and I was thinking about it recently, and I thought it would be a good topic to talk about for the podcast. Okay, let's get started. Are your ears ready? You know what time it is. It's listening time. All right, so let's get started. First of all, I want to mention that this podcast episode will not be very informative. I'm not going to teach you about Peru because honestly, I don't know that much about the country. But I'm going to tell you about my experience there. I'll just tell you a little bit about my trip and the things I saw, the places I went to, etc. It'll be an interesting topic for you to listen to as you practice your comprehension skills. So, first of all, I flew from Guadalajara, Mexico to Mexico City. This was my first leg of the trip. I didn't fly directly to Peru because I don't think there are any direct flights from Guadalajara to Peru. There might be, but I don't think so. I don't think I've seen any. And so first I went to Mexico City, and I actually spent 2 nights there. Then, after that, I flew from Mexico City to Lima, Peru. And I didn't fly alone because my friend actually went with me on the trip. I guess I should tell you about him now. He's the one who actually paid for my trip to go to Peru. We met at the airport there, and we flew directly to Lima, Peru. However, we didn't stay in Lima. Lima was just the stop before our final destination, which was Cusco. I'm sure some of you already predicted that, right? Cusco is the city that most tourists want to go to when they go to Peru because of Machu Picchu, right? It's close to that historical archaeological site. So we didn't get to see Lima. We just stayed in the airport there. And then we flew to Cusco. So when we got to Cusco, we actually didn't take a taxi from the airport to the main city because we thought, it's early and we have time to kill, so why don't we just walk from the airport to the city? The city of Cusco is really nice. It's really cute, as we would call it. It's definitely a charming city. It's a place where you probably want to take some cool pictures on the different street corners and take pictures in the main square. And it's a nice city overall. It's definitely a touristic city because people arrive from all over the world to go to Machu Picchu. So you have many tourists in Cusco year-round, I think. We went in October, if I'm not mistaken. People there, at least in that part of Peru, are pretty short on average. The people are not very tall. And so it was funny because I'm pretty tall. I'm about 186 centimeters, I think. But my friend, he's very tall. So I think he's 203, if I'm not mistaken. So he's very tall. And so the people there, the locals, they were amazed to see someone that tall in their city. So on 2 occasions, the locals stopped us and asked us to take a photo with them because they were so amazed about how tall my friend was. So they literally stopped us and said, "Hey, can we take a photo with you?" And then the different family members took turns taking pictures with my friend and sometimes with me and my friend. But it was a funny experience for sure. So, let's talk about Machu Picchu. This is the main attraction of Peru. This is the #1 site that everyone wants to visit. And for good reason, because let me tell you, it's unbelievable. It's an incredible place. I'm sure that if you've been there before, you would agree with my statement. It's really cool. And so in order to get to Machu Picchu, you first have to take some kind of bus or taxi or something to a train station, and then you get on this train, and then it takes you through a really beautiful nature landscape to the base of the mountain where Machu Picchu is. So after you get off that train, you have to take another bus to get up to the top of the mountain where Machu Picchu is. So when we got up to the top of the mountain, we realized very quickly that we were very high in the sky. The altitude was very high there. I can't remember the exact number, but I can tell you for sure that it was high. And we realized this very quickly because we were short of breath. When you're short of breath, that means that you're having trouble breathing normally. You breathe more forcefully. You have to breathe very fast to make sure you don't pass out, right? If you pass out, that means you faint, you lose consciousness, you fall asleep, so to say. So you have to breathe very fast, and you have to take a lot of breaks when you're walking, because it's very difficult for your heart to deal with that altitude. So it was a challenge for us to walk up and down those stairs at the top of the mountain, but it was worth it because in a very short time we had arrived at the viewpoint of Machu Picchu. So let's talk about dogs in particular, and then we'll talk about cats. We'll focus on these two animals. So dogs are probably the most common type of pet. I think in most countries, people like dogs in general, and when people think of pets, they usually think of dogs first. I know in some countries this might not be the case, but I'm speaking in general. Here in the West, dogs are king. So dogs are very popular pets for a number of reasons. So let's talk about the pros and cons of owning a dog. So the best thing about having a dog is that it can be like a friend sometimes. Dogs are usually friendly. They like being around humans. As we say in English, dogs are man's best friend. So we have that deep in our culture that dogs are friendly and are good companions to humans. So if you come home from work, you open your door, your dog is always there, happy to see you. They're super excited that you're home. And this feels nice as the owner, right? To have that attention from your animal. So that's one big advantage. Another pro is that dogs are fun. You can actually play with them. There are many types of activities and games that you can play with dogs. And if you take them to the park or to a dog park, you can run around with them and play fetch. Fetch is the game where you throw the ball and the dog runs after it and brings it back to you. This is called fetch in English. So you can play fetch with them. You can do many things with dogs. They're really fun animals. And dogs often play with each other. So if you go to a dog park, the different dogs will play with one another. And one other advantage of choosing a dog as a pet is that there's a huge variety of dogs. So there's a different type of dog for different types of people. Some people like small, easy dogs that don't take up a lot of space and you can just put them in your backpack. They're super small. Some people prefer those types of dogs, and other people prefer big dogs that can guard your house and that are oftentimes smarter than small dogs. So there are many types of dogs, many breeds of dogs, as we say. A breed just means a type of dog. So there are different breeds of dogs. But some of the disadvantages of owning a dog include the barking. So barking refers to the sound that dogs make, right? When they're excited or angry or whatever, dogs bark a lot. Some dogs bark more than other dogs, but in general, if you're a dog owner, you have to deal with barking. It's just a fact of life. And it can disturb your neighbors and other people around you. If you have a sleeping baby, a barking dog is not good. So that's one con. Another con is that you have to pick up after your dog. We use the phrase pick up after your dog to talk about what happens when your dog goes to the bathroom. So you can't just leave the product there. You have to pick it up afterwards. So I think everyone hates doing this, but if you're a dog owner and you're responsible, you have to do this. You have to pick up after your dog, as we say. Now let's talk a little bit about cats. So the advantages of having cats are a little bit different. For example, cats are independent. So this could be an advantage because you don't need to always spend time with them. You don't need to dedicate as much effort or energy into your cat like you do when you have a dog. That's one advantage. Another advantage is that cats are low maintenance in general. This is similar to what I just said, but more than just being independent, they also don't require as much cleaning, as much training, and those types of things because they're different animals than dogs. They behave differently. They're not as dirty. They don't cause as many problems. They're low maintenance, as we say in English. When we say that something is low maintenance, we just mean that it doesn't require a lot of your effort, attention, money, energy, those things. So cats are low maintenance, and I think I also just mentioned they're clean compared to dogs. Dogs make huge messes, and you have to pick up after them. With cats, I think it's easier. I've never had a cat before, but cat owners tell me that cats are easier to clean, and you don't have to do as much cleaning with them in general. So some of the cons of having cats include the fact that they're not as friendly as dogs. So if you're interested in having a pet that is a companion to you and you can play with all the time and pet. We also use the word pet as a verb, and we use it when we're talking about rubbing an animal with your hand. So when you see a dog, you often pet that dog. You touch it with your hand and you run your hand along its fur. You are petting the dog. So dogs are fun to pet, but oftentimes cats don't want to be pet. So they're not quite as affectionate as dogs. When something is affectionate, that means that it wants to be close to you and show you love. So cats don't do this as much as dogs. So what are some of the other types of pets that people have besides cats and dogs? Some people have birds like parrots and parakeets and things like that. Other people have reptiles like snakes and turtles and iguanas. Some people have fish, right? Goldfish or fighting fish or many different kinds. And then there are also animals like rabbits or hamsters. So I think that these animals are less common, but still many people enjoy them as pets because they usually require less effort, they're more low maintenance, and it's less of a commitment. So let's stop there. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and hopefully this was good practice for your ears. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Listening Time Podcast.